Good afternoon to everyone. Sam van der STAAK of International IDEA. And thank you to the organizers for having me here and allowing me to speak. What is the future of participation? Well, to understand where participation is going, we first have to understand the past of participation. Now, luckily for me, International IDEA just last November published a democracy index where it measured participation over the past 40 years. And when we look at participation and the formal forms of it over the past 40 years, we see that participation is actually not doing that badly. So the three mainstays of participation in elections, in civil society, and in direct democracy, such as referenda, is actually stabilized since the 1990s, or in the case of direct democracy, gone up a little bit. So maybe we should conclude that participation is not doing as badly as we think after all. Now, of course, that is only half the story, because apart from all these formal forms of participation, we have over the past 10, 15 years seen all kinds of new participation come up. These are the street protests, the march of protests, as The Economist calls it a couple of years ago, the citizen movements, and of course the online participation. And that is the other half of the story. And I think this is important to realize, that we are now in an age where the formal and the informal forms of participation are widening and deepening. Now, what is it we can do to connect these two forms of participation? I think in 2028, if we have to look at the next 10 years, the winners of participation will be those that do not replace formal participation by the new forms, but actually connect the two. So the connectors of the street protests and those that vote for elections and referenda and in civil society are the ones that will win. Secondly, those will be the winners in 2028 that bring citizens, politicians, and governments in sync with each other, that allow them to operate in step. Now, what is the role of digital technologies in doing all of that? Again, International IDEA has looked at especially what political parties have done to use online tools to engage citizens. And what we hear from them from across Europe are a number of lessons. First of all, that the digital and the non-digital should be used together. And only when we use those two to complement each other will digital tools actually engage citizens that were previously not engaged. Secondly, that digital tools will have to be a two-way street. They will have to be used to not just mobilize citizens, but to allow citizens to mobilize politicians. Thank you very much.